Hi, my name is Andy Vanzandt. I'm a professional board game developer, and I'm taking a look at older board game titles through the lens of modern development. It's important to keep in mind that a lot of what I'm saying is not intended to be criticism, but rather to compare and contrast choices that were made in the past versus what you might do nowadays for a modern product if you're remaking it for modern shelves. So today I'm taking a look at Risk Express, which is interesting in a couple of regards. It was designed by Rainer Knizia, and it was not put out in the U.S. There are Dutch versions and German versions, but no U.S. version. Uh, it was remade after this went out of print long enough. The rights, I assume, were reverted, and there's a game called, I think, Age of War by Fantasy Flight Games that uses the same mechanics, but doesn't have the Risk theme attached to it. Usually I look at packaging first. The only thing I'll note before I get into things is that this is missing the external packaging that this was inside. You could see this and you could see some of the components, but there's an external packaging that's missing that doesn't, so we don't have the back of the box text or anything like that to talk about here. But there's still more than enough to talk about with the packaging the way it is. So let me open it up and talk about not the package first. We've got custom dice here, and these are pretty nice. Multiple colors. Based on how shallow the indents are on this, uh, the embossing is, it might be heat stamped, but it's probably still regular style dice. But these are nice. We've got a rule sheet here, and it is adequate. And then we've got cards, and these are circular cards. The cards have nice graphic design on them. They're very clear as to what they mean, and it's nice that they're the right size for putting the dice, because it's a pretty straightforward push your luck game where you're trying to fill out lines of stuff in order to claim a continent. The bad part about these cards is that they are very cheap cardstock. They are not cord cardstock, and they're pretty thin overall, so they'll wear pretty quickly. Um, so I'll actually touch on that here in a second. So back to the packaging. So this is the bulk of the packaging, and it's a box, and it's also a dice tray, which is very nice. It's nice having a dice tray. Uh, we've got debossed, so raised text and images on this with, I think, multi-process silk screening on both sides here. We've got a lid to the thing, and it's important to note that this I can't get with my regular finger. I have to use my fingernail to get it open, so it's a little hard to get open, especially for kids. Um, and then we've got the dice tray on the inside. This this packaging probably costs more than everything else in the game. Uh, and on top of that, it's got some functionality issues. I already mentioned that it's hard to open up, but you'll also notice that we've got these ridges here. And the problem with that is that if you put in the dice first and put the cards on top, those ridges actually make it hard to close the box correctly. Um, and I actually did an earlier version of this video, and somebody pointed this out, and I thought it was interesting enough that I wanted to redo this video, that these ridges are designed to hold these cards, which it doesn't need to do. If these ridges just weren't there, you wouldn't even think twice about how you had the storage thing. These ridges actually hurt the cards when you put them in it. So if you bend the thing back, it can't bend back far enough that you can get your finger out of the way. So you are going to have to damage the cards, these already cheap cards, every time you take them in and out if you use these ridges. So I think the intent was good there, but the execution was lacking. If these ridges just weren't there, we wouldn't even be having the discussion. And it doesn't really protect the components. In fact, it damages them, and it doesn't help with box rattle, because that's what's going to cause the rattle and not these cards, right? Um, so that's a weird choice there. On top of that, this box here is made out of 4 separate pieces. This orange interior piece, you can see that this is in 2 layers, and then the lid. And uh, that means that you paid for the extra material and the molds for all of these pieces and the extra costs for putting them together. So even though there are multiple games in this express line, even though you might have been able to split the cost of the mold for this particular piece and the orange piece against them all, you obviously can't do that on these embossed pieces. So you're paying for this extra material and for the extra putting it together costs for those things, and I think that's a little overwrought. I think you tie up too much of the cost of the game in what is not a particularly functional thing, aside from the fact that it's a dice tray. I like that it is a dice tray, but it would have been so much easier just to have a 2-piece, maybe screw together dice tray, and you would have still maintained 99.9% of that presentation value without having these small hangups that are associated with mostly with this lid. Um, so that's the big thing I would change is this box right here. uh, I think could be improved significantly while being a nicer box. And then on top of that, I would make these either have nicer cardstock, thicker, hardier cardstock, or maybe even chipboard, so they would hold up a little bit better. So that's Risk Express. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.